Okay, if you'll all take your seats, we're going to call this meeting to order. If you'll please rise. This morning, we welcome Pastor David Hodgson of the Connection Point Church to do our invocation.
Let's pray together. Lord God Almighty, we thank you for the privilege that we have of being able to come before you. We thank you for the fact that you are a great and mighty God who sees and understands all things. We recognize that we at times are small and our view and our understanding is limited. So we come before you this morning asking that you will work mightily even this day in our minds and in our hearts. Lord, I pray for these supervisors. I pray for this meeting. Lord, we commit the meeting to you, and we ask that for our chairman and our supervisors and other officials that you will give them the ability to be able to speak clearly. Father, that everything that was done here today will be done without partiality and prejudice. Father, that this will be a time of true open discussion and dealing with matters that are serious and affect so many lives. I do pray for the supervisors that you will give them sensitivity and understanding and consideration of others. At the same time, Lord, I do pray for them to be able to be bold and courageous and as supervisors, as leaders in this county, to be able to move this county forward in a way that honors you, in a way that protects our liberties and our freedoms. And Lord, we thank you that that is something that we can trust you with, and we do that this morning. Lord, I thank you for those who are here today to be a part of this meeting, and I ask for them that you would be able to help them to understand the proceedings and understand the issues, and to be able to ask questions that are clear and understandable and help move the process forward. So, Father, we commit this day to you, and we commit this meeting to you. We thank you that you have given the opportunity to these leaders to function in these roles of leadership. And we know, Lord, that you have given these roles that people might be able to function in a way to lead us forward. And Lord, we ask that these leaders would function in uprightness and integrity and honesty. Father, that their lives might be used by you and their decisions might be honoring to you. And it's in your name we pray. Amen.
Thank you. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I need a motion to call for, first of all, we have Supervisor Johnson on the phone with us this morning. I understand you are sort of waterlogged over there.
A little bit, thank you.
Okay. Okay, I need a motion to call for an executive session to be held on August 18th, 2014 at 9 a.m. for discussion and consultation with legal counsel in accordance with ARS 38-431.03.
So moved.
Second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Are there any committee and/or legislative reports?
None this morning.
Supervisor Johnson?
No.
Okay. Anyone else here? Nothing? I just have a little report. At our last meeting, I spoke about I was going to go to Washington, D.C. to testify in front of the Natural Resources Committee about the Willow Beach Fish Hatchery. I believe it was very successful. It was regarding a bill that our Congressman Paul Gosar, put up that pretty much just said that only an act of Congress can close or alter any mitigation fish hatchery programs. That's the argument that we have with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife, and it went very well. I'm happy to say that that bill did make it out of that committee, and it was voted at the House, and so we are moving forward on it, and I expect some good news, hopefully. Keep your fingers crossed that we have a new strategic planning document coming out from U.S. Fish and Wildlife that will dictate their priorities for the future. And I was told that that document will be here on August 18th. So until then, we're hoping for the best, praying for the best, and I have a lot of hope that we will have trout back in the river again. And that's all for me. How about the county administrator? You have a report?
No report today, Madam Chairman.
Okay, we need a motion to approve the minutes of the June 2nd, 2014 Board of Supervisors meetings and the June 2nd, 2014 Board of Supervisors budget workshop minutes.
So moved.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Next up, we have our call to public. Those wishing to address the board at the call to the public regarding matters not on the board agenda must fill out and submit to the clerk a call to the public request to speak form, which is located in the back of the room prior to the meeting. Action taken as a result of public comments will be limited to responding to criticism, referral to staff, or placing a matter on a future agenda. Comments are restricted to items not on the regular agenda, with the exception of the consent agenda, and must relate to matters within the jurisdiction of this board. We do have a couple of people signed up. We will start with Mr. Mark Shaver. Will you please come up and state your address?
My name is Mark Shaver, 4054 West Hiller Drive, Meadview, Arizona.
Push it over a little, yeah. Right.
Hopefully, you guys will have a good morning, Supervisors. I hope that you've had a chance to look
Say
over.
your address for the record, please.
Oh, I'll do it again? Sure, 4054 West Hiller Drive, Meadview, Arizona. And I hope you had a chance to look over the flow chart there that shows, well, actually, this is about the general plan, which is up and due to be reviewed next year. And part of that process involves public participation. The flow charts that you have before you, marked A and B, show the flow of public participation and the level at which the public participates in that process. Currently, flow chart B is currently used, and that's what's sitting at the subcommittee that's currently reviewing the county ordinance. I would like to see flow chart A at least be brought before you as an alternative to that public process. If you don't know what the general plan is, I encourage you to get a copy from Development Services and actually look up. Your important participation in that process is needed. So I hope someone up here would find the courage to direct this to staff, to place it before the board so we can have an actual public discussion about that. I don't know if the public can see, I don't know how much they can blow that up, but you can actually see, there you go. How much further can you go up? As you can see on chart A, Citizen Input, Citizens Advisory Committee used to be in the 2005 general plan, and that's how the public participated. 2010, then County Ron Walker changed that. To be. As you can see, the citizens have marginalized, been reduced to filling out 4x6 comment cards. Even though the flow chart shows that they have what appears to be more input, in actuality, you don't. So it was my great hopes that someone here will have this matter referred back to staff and placed on so we can talk about it. Have a public debate. Thank you.
Mark, so what you're asking is that we just put more time for public input?
Well, in my understanding, the subcommittee is going to have their last few meetings here this month. So I don't know whether or not we can have a public discussion unless you call for it or have that item brought before you. And that way we could have, because the last meeting I went to, I wasn't able to stay the full meeting because it's 3 hours long and I had to get back to work. And it was never discussed.
Okay.
So, but before the subcommittee completes the review of the county ordinance, we need to have this discussed. That's why I asked that we have this referred to, so that way we can have it discussed, at least to a point where it could be considered as an option A, option B, when it comes before the board.
Can I ask the county administrator, is that something that we could do? Can we get some information as to what the process is now and where we're at on this?
Madam Chairman, Development Services is going to bring a public process for the general plan to the Board of Supervisors for discussion at some time in the fairly near future. So,
Okay.
And we could, I could send a memo out on that particular issue to the Board of Supervisors. Excuse my voice today. But like I said, they are looking at a public process and going through and following state law, actually expanding from state law and expanding what the public process is actually required to be. And that will be brought to the Planning and Zoning Commission, then to the Board of Supervisors for final approval.
Very good.
Can we do something, please, something about public awareness? They need to be aware of it. I understand that the county and development service met the minimum requirements for public, outreach.
Okay, Mark.
Thank you.
Mr. Shaver, I will make sure your comments are addressed.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Great.
Okay, Lee McWilliam?
Good morning, supervisors in the audience. My name is Lee McWilliam. I live at 18145 Orchid Drive in Dolan Springs. And I'm coming today to speak to you about our problem again in Dolan Springs. At the July meeting, we spoke to you about our escalating crime, and in the interim, we have met with several knowledgeable people within the county administration of Mohave, and we gained a lot of knowledge. And we appreciate all the help that we have received thus far. And those of you who met with us, you know who you are, and we respect and we appreciate the information that you have given us, and we thank you very much. We have an appointment to meet with others this week, and we already know what one of the main problems is. The judicial system is letting the people of Dolan and Mohave County down. This easy environment that's attracted more and more criminal element, and we have reached the saturation point our way. Enough is enough. And we are demanding that the Mohave County take action to curb and to stop these crimes committed over and over by the same individuals. And we were told by more than one county official that they had no idea we were having a crime problem. There was no reported crimes on record. And we discovered this could be true. And why is it true? The people who live there are afraid of retaliation. Meanwhile, Dolan still has the problem. 3 houses this week were broken into, along with a stolen quad, an attempted theft of a motorbike, and they broke in a toy hauler and took all its contents. We like living in Dolan Springs, and we don't like living in fear that leaving our homes for any period of time leaves us wide open to being broken into. We moved here to get away from the stress and the crime of the cities, to live in the quiet of the desert, and we plan to stay here. We want Dolan to be safe. Our Dolan Watch has brought us to the forefront and caught the attention of the criminals who know we are out here. Our deputies know we are out here patrolling, and they can do little without help delegated from higher up, and that is why we are here. We need help from the CA's prosecuting and judicial and sheriff's departments. We are aware that there are undercover personnel that could and should be assigned to our area. We have approximately 4,000 people in Dolan area, and we pay our taxes. We shop in the county taxes, and our taxes keep going up. Our services never get better. Meantime, the crime in Dolan goes on, and our residents pay the collateral damage because of the broken system. The break-ins that I spoke to you about today were just in our organized area. We know there are break-ins and worse happening all over Dolan, but they're not in our area, and we can only speak publicly about what we actually know the details of. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Steve Robinson?
Madam Chairman, Supervisors, my name is Steve Robinson. I live at 3439 North Bowie Road in Golden Valley, and I speak to you on behalf of our fire district. Last night, our chief, he called me this morning, a very groggy chief. In the last 18 hours, they have put out numerous fires and have rescued dozens of people, and he said for certain they saved the lives of 9 of our residents, and I think that represents a tribute to all first responders. And since we are discussing the budget this morning, and always the biggest part of every citizens' budget if they're in a fire district is the cost of that fire district. And I think days like the last 24 hours explain why it's worth the money that we pay to keep our firefighters fully trained and ready to respond to any emergency. So a big shout out to Golden Valley Fire and all other fire districts in the county.
Thank you very much. Okay, do we have anybody else who wishes to speak at the call to public who didn't sign up? Okay, then I close the call to public. Next up, we have our consent agenda. The consent agenda, items 5 to 34, will be considered as a group and acted upon by one motion minus any items pulled for discussion. Do we have any items, supervisors? No. None? None? Okay. I'll need a
Madam
motion.
Chair?
Yes,
32.
32. Okay, I need a motion.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the consent agenda accepting items 32, and it looks like items 13 and 14 have already been pulled.
Right, yes. I'll second the motion. Okay, a motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, item 32.
Madam Chair?
Please.
I was just curious, this was voted on last meeting without a salary. How did they come to the salary market value?
I believe that if we're going to talk about this, that we need to go into an executive session. Is that what you wish to do?
I don't know that we need to. It's just a...
Well, yes, I believe that the employee would wish that.
fine with me.
You want to
We
go
can
to
do that.
executive session?
You want to finish the meeting first?
Excuse me?
Want to finish the meeting first?
That would be nice. Okay, we'll come back to that. So we can come back and vote on a consent agenda item at the end, huh? Okay. All right, public hearing, number 36. I open the public hearing, discussion and possible action, adoption of Board of Supervisor Resolution number 2014-118, rezone of assessors parcel number 204-43-026 from an AR/16A agricultural residential 16-acre minimum lot size zone to an AR-5A agricultural residential 5-acre minimum lot size zone to allow creation of 3 residential parcels in the Blake Ranch Road vicinity, south of Wilson Ranch Road and west of Glass Bar Way, Mohave County, Arizona. This was recommended approval by a unanimous vote of the P&Z Commission. Anyone?
We have to open up for a public hearing.
Excuse me?
Public hearing.
Oh, this is a public hearing. I'm so sorry. Is there anyone wishing to speak to this? Seeing and hearing none, I close the public hearing.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve item 36.
Second the motion?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. 37. I open the public hearing, discussion and possible action, adoption of Board of Supervisor Resolution number 2014-119. It's a zoning use permit on assessor's parcel number 326-03-095 for a towing and impound yard in an A general zone in the Dolan Springs vicinity west of Calico Drive, south of Pierce Ferry Road, Mohave County, Arizona. The commission recommended approval by a vote of 5-2, with Commissioners Buck and Gabrielson voted against the motion. And we do have several people signed up to speak to this. First is Francis Bartlett.
Good morning. My name is Frances Bartlett. I live at 14085 Calico Drive, Dolan Springs, and I would like to make comments on this proposed tow yard. I have already written a letter, and I am here to answer questions as for my personal thoughts. As property owners and occupiers of Calico Drive, it is strongly urged that the request for the towing impound yard be denied for the location designated for the following reasons. Calico Drive is a short, narrow, and quiet road, and we fervently request that it be allowed to remain short, narrow, and quiet. Pardon me. This is a residential area. A 24-hour operation is not anything we want in our daily living. Number 3, contrary to what Mr. Masters claimed on July 9, 2014, an impound yard quickly becomes a junkyard. Witness the 2 yards a short distance north of Pierce Ferry Road. This must and will happen because there are frequent insurance decisions to total out, quote-unquote, wrecked vehicles. With any towing yard, this naturally leaves wrecked vehicles sitting indefinitely. Number 4, the proposed lot is not large enough for this type of operation, about 1.5 acres, therefore expansion is inevitable. Mr. Masters stated they will locate the office, etc., on the existing site. Again, Calico Drive is not wide enough for vehicles in tow on a regular business basis. We do not want to have the sight of stacks, number 6, we do not want to have the sight of stacks of vehicles rising up and over any 6, 7, or 8-foot fence any and every time we look out or above ground level. There has been considerable effort in Dolan Springs to create a pleasant environment as of the last few years, and this will just throw a monkey wrench in the whole thing. Number 7, it is quite offensive that people from other cities and areas that do not live here think nothing of coming out to Dolan Springs and using us for their dumping ground. With due respect, we who live in this area do not want this A&G towing or any other like facility to locate in this area. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have Elsa Del Cid. And you, Pablo, you want to speak with together? And we have an interpreter, I believe.
Yes, Madam Chair. My name is Liz Botlick, and I'll be interpreting for them on their request.
Very good.
My name is Paulo Del Cid, and I live in 14192 North Calico Drive.
Would you like me to repeat that, or?
I think we
that was very
understood
clear.
that. We understood that. But for the record, you're the interpreter, and you're from, where are you from?
I work for Mohave County Development
Very
Services.
good. Thank you. Okay, so who's going to speak to this?
¿Usted quiere hablar? O?
No,
Okay. ¿Qué es lo que quiere decir?
Okay, primero, good morning, Supervisor.
Good morning, Supervisors.
Que quisieran que pusieran esta foto.
He wishes to show the pictures he has taken.
Eso es la compañía Toy que el señor quiere poner,
¿Es la misma?
sí, y que dice que son 30 días de que la aseguranza tiene para recoger el carro, eso más de un año.
He states that this is a photograph of A&G towing, and he has stated that within 30 days, the vehicles are demolished. However, this has been a year looking the same. The same.
En el otro meeting él dijo que en 10 días, de 10 a 30 días, los carros se iban, eso es... No,
Previous meeting, he stated that within 10 days, the vehicles would be removed, and as you can see from the photograph, they have not.
esta es la compañía que está en Boulder City, y eso nosotros no lo queremos para...
¿Es la misma compañía?
Es la misma compañía que tienen poner en...
This is A&G in Boulder City, however.
In Boulder City.
In Boulder City.
Pero eso no lo queremos nosotros.
And this is not what they
Zona
wish.
residencial.
This is not what they wish for a residential area.
Okay. Thank you.
¿Esto todo?
No, no, y espero que consideren la opinión de los vecinos.
He hopes that you will consider the opinions of the residents of the area before making this decision.
Thank you. Excuse me, did Mr. and Mrs. Del Cid, did they come when they were hearing it in the planning and zoning?
Cuando esto fue en el plano y en la zona, ¿ustedes asistieron a esa
Sí.
entrevista?
They came
Se
before.
ignoraron.
They have.
Okay.
Ignoraron las recomendaciones de nosotros, como ignoró la oficina de Jim Bishop llamando a nosotros.
He feels that he's been ignored, as well as Commissioner Bishop did not return their calls, so he's not satisfied with that.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. And thank you for coming here today.
Thank you.
Gracias.
Okay, and in favor, we have Mr. Jerry Cooney.
morning, Supervisors. My name's Jerry Cooney, and I live at 19929 North Highway 93. I do have a financial interest in this transaction. But the point I wanted to make is about a little over a year ago, actually, my wife opened the Chevron, the truck stop, and the convenience store at White Hills right next to Rosie's. And was very common for breakdowns between Boulder City and Kingman that people coming there, because it would be the only place open, would have sometimes 3 and 4 hour waits before they could receive any services. And that's a significant length of highway with no services to the public as far as once they break down, they're stuck. A&G has a good reputation, as I've investigated, in Bullhead City and up the I-95 corridor. And I would really like to see this approved because I would like to see White Hills and Dolan Springs in that area have these services. Thank you.
Mr. Cooney, so we just saw a picture of another towing lot that had a lot of cars that were, they say, we have no evidence that they were sitting there for 30 days. What's the average turnover time?
That I'm unable to tell you. I'm not involved in any way with the business.
Okay.
The two of the owners are here. I'm sure they would be happy to tell you that. But I can't, I have no knowledge of that.
Can I call them up during this period? Can I call up the owners? Will one of, yeah.
Hello, my name's Anthony Malero, and I've owned A&G Towing for 21 years now.
Okay. So we just saw a picture of the operation, I guess, in Boulder City.
It's actually Bullhead City, Arizona.
Oh, that was Bullhead City.
Yeah, not Boulder City.
Oh, okay.
And our lot was only the top lot.
Okay.
And we tow for Bullhead City Police Department, Mohave County Sheriff's, Arizona Highway Patrol, Tribal. So over there's 7 law enforcement, so that yard's
Right.
significantly bigger. And those maps are GPS maps where they're not changed for 1, 2, 3 years before
Okay.
they're renewed.
And so what is your average turnover time?
It's all by the state law of Arizona. The lien sales take anywhere from 45 to 90 days. We have no control over. After 10 days, we have to file for lien sale. Then it goes to, the Arizona Highway Patrol, and then it takes them about 45 to 90 days on
Okay.
an average. But we are not a junkyard whatsoever. We do towing and storage only. We do no auto repair, nothing but towing and service. And the reason why we're coming to Dolan Springs is because AAA has had so many problems. Geico, camping companies, we tow for all the roadside, and they're having 2, 4, 6, 8-hour ETAs out there. And last summer, there was 3 people that got sick, animal that died in the car, and they're the ones that called us saying they need help on 93. So right now, for the past 3 months, I've had a truck stationed at the RV park in Dolan Springs, and just doing the road service for AAA. And you could check, we've had 30-minute ETAs, for everybody. But there's not enough money in Dolan Springs to keep a truck there without having a yard to be able to store stuff, and it's only temporarily. We are not a junkyard.
Okay, thank you very
whatsoever.
much.
So,
Thank
okay,
you.
is that it?
Anyone else have questions? Okay, thank you very much.
no problem.
Okay, is there anyone else who'd like to speak to this?
Yes, I would, Your Honor. I'm the other owner.
Okay, come on.
My name is Milton George Masters. I go by George Masters, and I spoke at the Planning Commission, and the only thing I'd like to add on to this is the fact was that at the last meeting, a lot of people kept referring to us as a junkyard, and again, we try to get these cars out, and the insurance companies try to get them out almost immediately because they don't want to pay storage. And the fencing that we're going to do, and we have pictures that we could put up here if you would allow us the time to do it. But if you don't want us to show you how our plan is and all that, or if you'd rather, would you like that, or?
Yes,
Okay.
we would.
This is a rendering of the drawing, and I think you do it like this. Maybe I'm wrong. Or am I supposed to be over this square here?
Yeah, that's fine.
So what happens Naturally, the road's out here, out front of the building. The actual gate is to the left of the building. The lot is 1.5 acres. Our Boulder City lot is 1.25 acres. Our Kelnavari lot is about 1.25 acres. Our Yucca lot is about 1.25 acres. So we can't afford to junk it up. We got to keep them moving, which we do. So therefore, it would be all privacy fence around the whole thing in a new building. I'm sorry, I don't feel good today, but anyhow, the other part of it is, there's no burned out house down there. We're going to be tearing that down, 100%. And it's an abandoned house. This is the garage, part of it's an office, parking for public, and also for needless to say, handicap. Okay, I'll get out of here in a minute.
That's okay.
Finally, this is kind of a colored rendering,
Upside down.
upside down, of the same thing. And we're willing to deal with neighbors as far as painting goes, things like this. We plan on doing all kinds of clearing. That'd be nothing but a vacant field when we get done before we start everything. And we still have to go through a site plan too, so there's more to do.
Okay.
So I just wanted to bring that to your attention, and I hope I answered most of your questions.
Any questions?
I have a couple questions, Mr. Masters. There seems to be concern that the trucks that you'll be using are heavy and will tear up the road. Can you tell me how many
Yes,
pounds,
we-
or what's the average truck that you would be using?
Yeah, the average truck, we're only going to have one truck stationed there at one time, ever, and that's going to be a flatbed, the typical flatbed you see on the road, and it weighs 16,000 pounds, much lighter than a garbage truck, and with a car on there, the maximum we can haul is 26,000 pounds. And then if we do happen to get a semi that churns over and spills all over 93 or something like that, we might have to bring a big truck out there for a day and take it right back out of there again, you know what I mean? And that wouldn't show either, because that would be fenced in. And again, the insurance companies don't like to pay big bills.
Okay, the time that you might store a vehicle after law enforcement asks you to tow the vehicle to your facility would be how long?
The maximum time is 45 days. Well, it can go a little bit longer, like for instance, if there's a death, you know, or anything like that, the police ask us to hold them, you see, which they do. You know, occasionally they want us to hold the vehicle. But the majority of the time, if we're working with the insurance companies, is 3 to 5 days, because we charge like $30 a day to $45 a day, depending on what we're doing, plus the tow service, and it adds up pretty fast. So, you know, and that's the going rate for particular areas. So, and I might be off $1 or $2 on the exact charge of that. I personally have only been in the business 5 years. I'm not 21 years, but I can tell you pretty much along that lines. It definitely isn't a junkyard. I talked to the guy next door that has the yard that is all messed up there in the corner, and at one time he was bragging about having 300 cars in there because he was going around picking up everything and crushing them. We don't have a crusher. We don't have anything like that there at all. It is not being held for that kind of stuff.
Okay, and then would you be towing vehicles to your yard in Bullhead City?
Right.
From...
We actually own a junkyard in Bullhead City where we have a crusher, and we have that, and it's all approved by the city of Bullhead inside the city limits on a street behind Lowe's. So if you don't happen to know where that is. But anyhow, that give you a general idea. It's not in a residential area at all. But I mean, in our as you well know, we're not residential. And I know one of the things on our A1 is junkyard. Well, we're not asking for a junkyard. And I'd like everybody to understand it's not a junkyard. Very little. We've done 30 tows in 3 months. So far, we may do 2 or 3 a day. Very seldom. You know, I mean, it's just the idea of the convenience of they need the help out there. We'll go all the way out to Meadville. We'll go all the way out to the new deal. Plus, you got Corridor 11 coming through there. So one day you're going to have this to deal with. Sooner or later, they're going to have it. So, you know, it's just a necessity. We only go down Calico about 600 feet. So that's it. We don't go down to the end of the road.
Okay, just a couple more quick questions. When someone has their car towed, do they get charged mileage from the location to the impound yard?
No, they actually get towed. That's a tow fee. And then the storage starts one day after they're there.
Okay, so whether they're towed to Bullhead or to Dolan Springs, the
Well,
charge
the
would be the same
Bullhead
for
would
them?
be 80-some miles, and you'd have to pay an awful hard price. AAA won't pay that, none of them will.
Yeah, what she's saying, what it is true, the Arizona Highway Patrol contract is, it's hookup and mileage, it's $5 a mile. So right now, everyone that gets impounded there or breaks down there gets charged $5 a mile all the way to Kingman or Bullhead.
So
So if we open
approve
up
this
in
to-
Dolan, it's only going to be right there. It'd
If
be
we approve this today, that will save
a lot,
the
as soon as we get
people
on
that
the
are unfortunate enough to need
contracts,
your
yes.
services. And can your business be seen from Pierce Ferry for tourists that are going down Pierce Ferry? Will
I
they
don't-
be able to actually see your place?
They'll be
from-
able to see the fence, I believe so, yeah. The
Okay.
fence.
That's all I have then.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time, everybody.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay. Anyone else? I don't know, can we rebut during the public hearing? Okay, just a minute.
My name is Frances Bartlett, 14085 Calico. Now, where they're locating is right across the road from people that have health problems, and this is a 24-hour thing, and we would like for it to be rejected, please. It's in a residential area. There's plenty of places out there that they can put it besides right there. They do not have to locate there in our residential area. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to close the public hearing. Is there any other discussion or motion?
I'll move that we approve item 37 of the agenda.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Number 38, I'm opening the public hearing. Discussion and possible action to approve the placement of a lien for dangerous building abatement in the amount of $1,499.59 in accordance with Section 110 of the International Property Maintenance Code, Assessors Parcel Number 224-37-207, 1870 East Plantation Road, Mohave Valley, Arizona. I don't have anybody signed up, but is there anybody who'd like to speak on this? Hearing and seeing none, I will close the public hearing.
Make a motion to approve the placement of lien on the property.
Second.
Okay, motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Opening the public hearing for item 39, discussion and possible action, approve the placement of a lien for a dangerous building abatement in the amount of $1,852.23 in accordance with Section 110 of the International Property Maintenance Code, Assessors Parcel Number 324-21-224-2395 East Devlin Avenue in Kingman, Arizona. No one signed up? Anyone wish to speak with this? Hearing and seeing none, I close the public hearing.
Motion to approve the lien on the property.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Opening public hearing, discussion and possible action, approve the placement of a lien for a dangerous building abatement in the amount of $2,404.03 in accordance with Section 110 of the International Property Maintenance Code, Assessors Parcel Number 224-27-149A, 10186 South Townsend. I don't have where that is, but anyone wanting to speak with this, to this? Hearing and seeing none, I close the public hearing.
I'll approve for the placement of a lien on the property on Townsend.
Second.
All in favor?
Townsend Circle, I'm sorry.
All opposed? Motion carried. 41, opening the public hearing, discussion and possible action, adoption of Board of Supervisor Resolution Number 2014-112, regarding the petition to establish Painted Rock Drive, beginning at Fawn Drive and ending at Brooks Boulevard, all located within Township 24 North, Range 15 West, Sections 26, 27, and 34 in the Valley Vista area of Mohave County as a county highway. I do have somebody signed up for this, Steve Robinson.
Supervisor Angus, members of the board, I'm Steve Robinson, 3439 North Bowie Road, Golden Valley. I'm speaking up in opposition of this for three important reasons. The statutes provide that county highways, the primary purpose of which should be to connect from one major highway or one thoroughfare highway or state highway or interstate to another. What this road does is it connects a residential section of property, Valley Vista, through a currently regularly maintained county road, full width and everything, and then connects to basically a road, Painted Rock goes into a full section of land that was subdivided 30 years ago, 35 years ago, but has never been developed. So it basically is a road that goes to nowhere. What this road does is it takes roads that would normally, if I, living in Golden Valley, if I wanted to pave my road, Bowie Road, which connects from Highway 68 and through Agua Fria, connects to US Highway 93, I could say, well, if you're going to pave this road because it has a commercial value, then this Bowie Road would also should be paved because it provides commercial value for an alternative source or egress out of Golden Valley. It's what happens when you approve these roads that are out in the middle of nowhere for county as county highways, you then have one purpose, even though it's not stated in the agenda, and that's to pave that road at county expense. Every housing development, every commercial development would then look at this and say, well, why didn't you pay for our pavement of our area? Because it has commercial value. Certainly, it's an admirable thing to have a vineyard and to have a winery out there, which is why this is being presented. But I think it's unfair to the rest of the taxpayers in Mohave County to pay for what should be paid for through the normal process of an improvement district by the residents that will benefit the most, not by all the taxpayers. So that's why I think it doesn't meet the full standards. It's for personal use of, even though it may have public benefit, it doesn't benefit all of the county, yet all the county will be paying for it. So my recommendation and request is that you, at the very least, take time to study this further. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak to this? 41?
Madam Chairman?
Yes.
I just wanted to make a couple clarifications. Nowhere in statute does it talk about a county highway having regional significance for the board to approve a county highway. In fact, the county the state statutes only refer to county highways in two areas. One is in the definitions on traffic in 28101, and the other one is in 286701 through 05. 286701 actually has a definition and calls for three ways that a county highway can be established. It states that the Board of Supervisors can unilaterally declare a county highway, or the board can take county engineer's recommendation and make a decision on whether to establish a county highway, or the board can establish a county highway through a public petition process. But the statutes have been used to where in establishing a county highway, it in essence opens up the county's checkbook in improving a roadway, but it doesn't necessarily require that. There is no requirement for the board to improve a road once it's established as a county highway. A county highway, if you look at the definition, is basically a county road. So the statutes have been convoluted to a great extent. I know I've made personal efforts to try to clarify them in the past and have been unsuccessful through CSA. But I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the purpose of this is to accept a road for maintenance that's been brought up to county standards. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
May I ask a question, Madam Chair? What's the purpose, what's the public good that we're serving here with this particular road?
And Madam Chairman, Supervisor Moss, the statutes, like I said, have been fairly convoluted over time.
If I can interrupt you, Mr. Hendricks, it's for not the statutes, but for what's the
And
direct benefit?
I'll get to that if you'll
Okay.
allow me to do this. As you know, as you probably know, 286705 talks about that the roads have to be, for a county to accept a road for maintenance, it has to be laid out, open, and constructed prior to a certain date. And so even if somebody under extraordinary conditions goes out and improves a roadway to county standards and requests the county to maintain it because of the way 286705 has been convoluted over time, if it doesn't fall into being constructed prior to a certain date or in a certain range, the county can't accept it for maintenance. So to be able to accept roads for maintenance that have been brought up to county standard that don't fall into the range covered by 286705, the county has utilized the county highway statutes in the past to where for those roads that don't fall under 286705, if a person goes out and constructs a roadway at no cost to the county and petitions that the county accept those roads for maintenance, we accept them under 286701, which is the county highway statute.
That doesn't answer my question. What's the specific good that accepting this road as a county highway would do for the county? Why are we doing this? Just because? I mean, that's what I'm hearing. The statute allows us to do it, so we're doing it. That's not what
Well, if we didn't never accept, I'm sorry, Supervisor Watson.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
So, one of the services that the county has always provided is if a road is brought up to county standards in a certain area, if the public gets together in an area and the road's been properly laid out and is brought to county standards, then the county would accept it for maintenance if that road was brought up at no cost to the county. So it's a way of providing a service out in the outlying areas. I guess the public good would be that that's a service that the county provides countywide for those areas where people wish to bring the roads up to a standard and then ask the county to accept them for maintenance.
Supervisor Wall.
And I can believe I can answer part of your question, Supervisor Moss. Actually, it's for 3 reasons. Part of it is flood control, dust control, and traffic. There's an extreme amount of traffic to that facility at the end of Rooks quite often. So those are the 3 reasons. And after the hearing is over, I'll be making that motion based on those 3 reasons.
Okay. I have a question. Do these things go through the Transportation Commission?
Madam Chairman, as I mentioned, and not to throw statutes around, but that's the way I refer to them, 286701 gives 3 methods to establish a county highway. One is by the board unilaterally. Those don't go through the Transportation Commission. Number 2 is through county engineers recommending to the board to establish a county highway for whatever purpose, for a public purpose. And then the 3rd, through petition by the people. The people can actually petition the board to create or to make a roadway a county highway or create an alignment that's a county highway. Now that particular method, the petition process, goes through the Transportation Commission. Additionally, any roadway improvements, roadway construction, if the board or if there was consideration to improve a roadway, to pave a roadway, that would go through the Transportation
Okay, so
Commission.
this one just didn't go through, it wasn't a petition by a citizen, it just came directly to us? Yes, Supervisor Watson.
I'd like if we could have
Steve, yes.
Do I have to close the public hearing first? No?
Not
Okay.
Good morning, Madam Chairman, members of the board. I wish I'd just provide a brief update on the processing of this public petition to establish Painted Rock Drive as a county highway for 0.55 miles from Fawn to Brooks Drive. I must state that the Mohave County does maintain this roadway. It is currently an unsurfaced roadway with 100 feet of right-of-way established, but we do have it as part of our regular road maintenance system for unsurfaced roadways. This petition did go through the Transportation Commission, and if you wish, I can just enlighten you as far as some of the parameters that the Commission considered as far as recommending this roadway be considered by the board. It does carry an average daily traffic of 169 vehicles per day, and in 2000, the board adopted Resolution 2000-50, which set forth 13 general criteria for evaluating the feasibility of any public petition for a county highway establishment by either the Transportation Commission or the board. And staff reviewed those criteria with the Commission, and we identified 5 criteria which this road may satisfy in terms of serving the public good. The roadway does serve an existing commercial and or industrial area. The commercial area, we recognize the winery developments. Second, the roadway does serve a primary function of collecting residential traffic from local streets. Thirdly, the roadway may facilitate economic growth in the county. Fourth, the roadway is the best alternative. And fifth, the roadway does have adequate right-of-way established. As Mike very eloquently pointed out, the county has no obligation to further improve this roadway. However, by establishing it as a county highway, it is really the only means by which the county can participate in such improvements. And really, with the right-of-way established and the road already laid out to a proper cross-section, the only improvement would really be the hard surface to pave it.
Okay. Well, you had me at the Transportation Commission approve this. That was my question, and while we've been speaking, my representative to the Transportation Commission texted me that, yes, indeed, that this was approved, and that's what I wanted to know.
I have a question, Madam Chair.
Sure.
Mr. Lutowski, this project hasn't been, or I'm guessing it's because of the winery is why we're looking at taking this in and possibly doing some paving project in the future. When this went through planning and zoning, we always make people who get this kind of zoning pave roads to their location if they're going to require heavier traffic on our roads. Why wasn't this done when the process first started?
Madam Chair, Supervisor Johnson, as far as this particular item, this was considered by our Mohave County Transportation Commission, not the Planning and Zoning Commission. However, the winery development you speak of on Brooks Boulevard did go through a site plan process, and it was determined at that time that the volume of traffic, which is largely passenger car traffic, does not subject the unsurfaced Painted Rock Road or Brooks Boulevard to any kind of loading that would really require a hard surfacing of such a road. So I do understand this petition was brought forward not by any members of the winery, but rather just by the general public in the Valley Vista, northern Valley Vista area with an interest in improving Painted Rock at some future time.
Supervisor Johnson, any follow-up?
Yeah, I guess I'm not getting so this is just a petition from the people that put it into the system when it could go through a improvement district like other areas have also.
Madam Chair, Supervisor Johnson, yes, an improvement district option would be an alternate option for the residents themselves to undertake and distribute the costs of improving a roadway like Painted Rock to a hard surface condition. And the petition, as I understand it, and it was presented to the Transportation Commission, is largely just generated by the Valley Vista residents with an interest in hard surfacing the roadway at some future time.
That's all I had, Madam Chair. Thank you. I was curious about the winery, but it doesn't appear to be the wineries.
I have a question, Chairman.
Okay. Supervisor Watson.
Mr. Lutowski, how far away is it from this acceptance to the winery? I believe this is 0.5 miles to Brooks. That's the extent of what we would accept today. Is that correct?
Madam Chairman, Supervisor Watson, the item backup does include a map of the limits, and the northerly terminus of this county highway petition is at Brooks Boulevard. So I don't have the information in front of me as far as the distance from Painted Rock to the winery, but having been out there, I believe it's about a half a mile, roughly.
Yeah, it's closer to a mile.
Okay, about a mile then, yeah.
So, go ahead with your
Okay,
public hearing.
so is there any other questions for Mr. Latowski? Supervisor Moss? Thank you. Okay, I believe I need to close the public hearing now. And need a motion.
Make a motion to adopt Board Resolution number 2014-112. Actually, there are a number of reasons for this. Part of it is flood control, dust control. The amount of traffic is 169 vehicles per day. And also the easement is a 100-foot easement, which is very rarely accepted these days. With that, I'll make a motion to approve.
And I'll second in light of the Transportation Commission's approval of this particular improvement.
Okay, we got a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Open the public hearing. Discussion and possible action, adoption of the Board of Supervisor Resolution number 2014-113 to consider establishing a .21-mile section of Wilson Ranch Road from Blank Ranch Road to Singer Road, located in Mohave County in the Round Valley area, as a county highway for purpose of accepting this road into the Mohave County Road Maintenance System for maintenance only to the degree of improvement as a gravel roadway. We have nobody signed up. Is there anyone who wants to speak about item 42? Seeing and hearing no one, I'll close the public hearing.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we approve.
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Number 43, opening the public hearing, discussion and possible action, adoption of the environmental health fee schedule for concession stand permit fees to be effective September 1st, 2014. We have nobody signed up. Anyone wish to speak to this in the public hearing? Item 43. I'll close the public hearing and open for discussion.
Madam Chair, I believe that this is an issue we've discussed before. I do believe it is in the interest of the county and the residents of the county that nonprofits receive a lesser fee structure than do for-profit enterprises. I do notice that there is a provision in there when it comes to sporting fields. People who run concession stands or run snack bars at sporting fields, that would deal with a portion of the problem. When it deals with, for example, Pop Warner, Little League, soccer, the booster clubs at the high school games, things of that nature, I assume that's what it's applicable to. However, it does not deal with what I think is the wider problem of the Rotary clubs, the Kiwanian clubs, civic organizations of that sort.
Okay, anyone else wish to say anything about this? Okay, I'll need a action.
Make a motion to approve.
I'll need a second.
I'll second it.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oppose? Okay, that motion carried. Number 44, opening the public hearing, discussion and possible action to authorize submittal of the grant application for the BJA FY14 Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistant Grant. That's the JAG program local solicitation after completion of the 30-day review and consideration of comments from the public. I have no one signed up. Anyone want to say anything about item 44? Hearing and seeing none, I close the public hearing. Motion?
I motion to approve item 44 of the agenda.
Second motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 45, open public hearing on FY 214 to 15 Mohave County tax levies and rates. We do have one person signed up, our good friend Steve Robinson. Come on down.
Chairman Angus, Supervisors, I'm Steve Robinson, Golden Valley, Arizona. This process, the public hearing, since there's no decision, is just part of the legislative process required and mandated. And because I pointed out how valuable our fire districts are, and when you have to deal with the public and answer their questions as to why you're approving it, they're going to say, why are these rates so high? It'll be easy to point out and legitimate to say, look at your fire district rates. And that's a big part of it. But the point is that that's what this process is about. But there is one issue that I really want to address that that's been touched on in the periphery, and that's regarding the TV taxing district. You approved reducing the rate to 7 cents from 8.67 cents at the tentative budget hearing date. I'm going to read ARS 481104 into the record. Financial statement, levy, and collection of taxes. This is from the special taxing district regulations establishing TV districts. On or before July 1st each year, the Board of Directors shall prepare a full and complete statement of the financial affairs for the preceding fiscal year and an estimate of the amount of money necessary to be raised to defray district expenses during the next fiscal year. The estimate shall be fully itemized and take into account any deficit or surplus from the preceding fiscal year. B, the board shall certify the estimate, and at the time county taxes are levied, the Board of Supervisors shall levy a tax sufficient to raise the amount of the estimate. The taxes assessed shall be levied and collected in the same manner as county taxes. Right now, as of June 30th, there was over $3 million in that Treasury fund for the TV district. The projected budget is well under $1 million and hasn't spent much more than that over the past several years. I think it's unfair to the citizens to tax them even the 7 cents based upon what the law says about taking into account, not just taking it into account, but shall levy an amount based upon that carry forward. And I think it would save the taxpayers another 7 cents per $100 on their valuation. That's all I want to share with you on that issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You know, I do want to say something about that, because this TV district's been talked about. You know, it was something that I talked about before I was supervisor, and I do want us to follow the law. We've never really followed the law. I know we're going to be speaking about this in 2 different ways later on in this meeting, but I think it's important. I believe we should start that we should only spend what we have to pay. We've always had more in that fund, and you know, we can debate whether it was used rightly or wrongly. That decision was made by other boards. But going forward, I just want to make sure that we are following the law that designates how we behave in this district, and I do not think we've been behaving the right way.
Thank you very much. I agree with you, Supervisor Angus.
Okay, so there's no action needed. This was just a public hearing. I'm going to close the public hearing if there's anyone else.
Madam Chairman?
Yes.
Just as a point of information, we have attached to the backup all of the other taxing districts, which will be approved at the second meeting in August. Just wanted to bring the board's attention, we've been made aware since publishing that of one change by Bullhead City Elementary District number 15 that will be included in the amounts that you adopt at our next meeting.
While we're on that subject, when I looked at my backup materials, it was hard to decipher exactly, you know, how much these districts have gone up or down or stayed the same. It was a lot, and I know people do look at the backup. Is there any way we could just plainly say it's gone up this much this year from last year, and so people know? Because there is some misconceptions out there when people look at their tax bill, they get their taxes go up. This is the second year the county has not raised the rates, levies, and anything, but yet if you go up, you have all those other districts. You've got the the elementary, school districts, the fire districts. And although we really do everyone a service by putting that pie chart on the tax bill where you see where your money's going, I think people still don't sort of understand that the county's hands are tied on a lot of this. These decisions are made by different boards that have different legal authorities, and I just wanted that spelled out clearer in the backup material.
Madam Chairman, we can, at your next meeting, provide for you for each district the change in the levy dollars for each of those districts. To try to do that for a specific parcel or a specific taxpayer is impossible because of the multiple combinations. But we can, for the entire lineup of those people who have got tax rates, say what their rate and levy was from the previous year and show the comparison.
No,
We'd be happy
and that's
to do
why I
that.
said the individual taxpayer, they get to see on their tax bill in that pie chart the percentage that goes to each of the taxing districts. And I think that if everybody did that, I think that there'd be a lot more attendance at some of these other taxing district meetings.
We'll be happy to provide that, ma'am.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, moving on. Number 46, I'm opening the public hearing, discussion and possible action, adoption of Board of Supervisor Resolution Number 2014-120, adoption of the Mohave County budget for fiscal year 2014 to 15 in the amounts recommended by staff with the general fund budget approved as a modified lump sum budget. And it wouldn't be complete without Steve Robinson coming down and making a statement. And I could say that because he's my friend.
And I have been absent for many months.
It's true.
I know it's very challenging for the staff to put together a budget when you're talking about $250 million overall budget and $80 million. So I do applaud the work they do, because I know it's not easy. Since I've just experienced two consecutive budget processes for Golden Valley Fire District, where, like the county, we were able to maintain the same rate for the fire district. I'm addressing one issue, and that is the full disclosure of the amount of reserves that the county carries forward in its general fund. ARS 42-171-51 says that you shall disclose the restricted and unrestricted unencumbered balances from the previous fiscal year. Restricted and unrestricted means those that may have specific purposes for the future or may not. Unencumbered means that they haven't already been spent by resolution or something in the previous fiscal year. Currently, according to the Treasurer's report, in the county general fund, the payroll and expense fund, those three Treasurer's funds, there's over $13.5 million. State law requires us to report all of those reserves, whether it's contingency or budgeted, even if we don't plan to spend them, because there's numerous funds where they have contingency or carryover amounts from previous fiscal years. But the state law does require it, and our friends at ATRA even verified that in the review of the county budgets last year. They addressed that specific issue. I believe the taxpayers need to know how much money is in the budget, not how much is going to be spent, but just how much money, because then we establish and vote for and support your vote for the tax rates based upon all of our resources. And that's why I brought this issue again today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Timko?
Madam Chairman and members of the board, I'd be happy to address that. Mr. Robinson again confuses what's a budget proposal and the required reporting and the disclosure, and that happens in the financial statements. The financial statements of the county include every reserve, including the general funds reserve, and is presented there every year, approximately in February when our audit gets finished. Sometimes it's as late as March. And so the prior year's reserve is not known until the audit is finished in March for last year. And so you're right, Mr. Robinson, it is about $13 million. What happens in the budget is we allow ourselves through the budget process to open for expenditure some of those reserves. This year, $5 million is the amount that we've included. We don't need to budget the entire $13 million. We disclose it in the financial statements, and we only budget those reserves which we anticipate there may be an outside chance that we need to use. Having not budgeted them, we can't use them. We cannot exceed our budget, and so we budget the amount that we anticipate on the outside chance that we might have to use. The full disclosure that's required in the statute occurs correctly in the annual financial statements.
Well, thank you. That was interesting. Okay, that was the public hearing. Anyone else wish to speak? All right, I'm going to close the public hearing on item 46.
Make a motion for the adoption of Board of Supervisors Resolution Number 2014-120, the adoption of the Mohave County budget for the fiscal year 2014-15, and the amounts recommended by staff with the general fund budget approved as a modified lump sum budget.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, we're going on to the regular agenda now. Number 47, discussion and possible action, adoption of Board of Supervisor Resolution Number 2014-098, denying a rezone of Assessor's Parcel Number 324-12-038 from an R-1/1A Single Family Residential 1 acre minimum lot size zone to an AR Agricultural Residential 1 acre minimum lot size zone to allow personal livestock in the North Kingman vicinity, northwest sides of Able Drive between Diagonal Way and Sunhaven Lane, Mohave County, Arizona. This was continued from the July 7th Board of Supervisor meeting, and the commission, the P&Z Commission, recommended denial at their June 11th P&Z meeting by a vote of 5-3. We do have a couple of people signed up. Helmut Rabis, sorry if I pronounced your name incorrectly. Rabbis?
Good morning, Madam Chair. Good morning, members of the board. My name is Helmut Rabis, and I live at 317 Anna Circle in Bullhead City. And I'm here to speak on behalf of Darlene Gerhardt concerning the rezoning of her property on 4369 North Able Drive. The subdivision is a fairly old subdivision. It apparently dates back to the 60s. I'm not sure, 64 or 69. But it was rezoned in 1989 for the purpose to limit further divisions of the 1 acre lots. Apparently, the infrastructure would not support a higher density zoning, and so it was zoned R1, 1 acre minimum. However, the subdivision is a very rural subdivision. So it's really kind of neat. The property on the opposite side of this subject property is zoned commercial, and when I listened to the Planning and Zoning Commission, their main concern, I believe, was the spot zoning. They didn't want to create any spot zoning. I wouldn't really consider it a spot zoning, considering there are a lot of non-conforming things going on in the subdivision anyway, and by no way do I want to put anybody in trouble or anything. It just maybe we should be able to open a pathway for others to comply to, since they use the property their way already anyways. So that would open the pathway. I mean, there are several properties they hold personal livestock, and there is even one property on Baker Street which appears to even have commercial use. There's a big commercial sign in the front. So Darlene actually just tried to legalize what she thought in the first place when she bought the property she would have. She assumed, like many other people, you buy a 1 acre piece of property in a rural area and you may have horse privileges.
Thank you very much.
See, I exceeded my time.
You did.
So I ask the board to approve her request, please.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, Darlene Gerhardt.
Hello, board members. I get so nervous when I get up here. I'm really sorry, but not used to public speaking. Anyways, all I have to add is that it was my intent to go legally about trying to get a horse there. And there was a very large fee that was also part of going to planning and zoning to apply to get this rezoning. When I talked to those people at planning and rezoning, they seemed to think that there was not going to be any kind of an issue, or I would not have gone through everything and paid all these monies for these things. The only negative feedback that I've ever had from any of the over 20 letters that I sent out is somebody was concerned about flies. And I kind of chuckled because had I gotten my horse originally, there are so many flies in my neighborhood right now because of the rain that everybody would have said, look, she got a horse and now we have flies, but that really didn't have anything to do with it. There are things that are available to keeping flies down. There's a product available called Simplify that you feed to your horse. It stops the larvae growth in the manure, also cleaning up manure afterwards. West Side Disposal also picks up manure if it's put in the right kind of containers. I really want a horse. I've had horses all my lives. I really, really hope that you will consider this. I didn't want to throw anybody under the bus that has any kind of livestock now. I'm just hoping that if I can get mine approved, maybe it'll open the door for other people to go about this legally and get their properties rezoned too. I hate flies. I hate flies a lot. I don't blame anybody for complaining about them, but if I don't want them and I have them, I'm going to do something about it. So I really don't think it's going to be a problem for my neighbors. Thank you for considering this, and I hope you approve of me.
Ms. Gerhardt, I'm sorry, I forgot to ask you to state your address for the record.
I'm so sorry. My address is 4369 North Able, Kingman, 86409.
Thank you. As I understand, you have the neighbors around there, they're doing this anyway. There's livestock, they're doing it without going through the process that you went through. So basically, you went through the process, paid the money, and now you're being sort of punished. I just want to make sure that we are enforcing this zoning. If we're going to deny Ms. Earhart, that we're enforcing it in that area.
Well, if you approve it, then you don't have to worry
Well,
about it.
I know, I'm sort of asking somebody else.
Okay.
You can sit down now. Thank you very much.
I do have a question for the applicant.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Supervisor Watson?
Yes,
sir.
ma'am. Is it your intention to have one horse?
Yes.
Any other animals?
Maybe some chickens? Maybe some chickens?
Thank you.
Okay, but that would be it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes.
Excuse me, my voice is going in and out today. Madam Chairman, members of the board, I believe the question was concerning the enforcement of the zoning ordinance in this particular area. Development Services enforces a zoning ordinance based on complaints. When there is a complaint, we do follow up and identify or inspect the property and identify any zoning violations that are present. We do have a number of cases open for livestock or various other types of, for lack of a better word, farm animals, chickens, goats, horses primarily. We do follow up when we identify that an animal is indeed in residence on the property. We work with the property owner to find a more suitable location for the animals identified.
When this came before the planning and zoning, was there a lot of opposition to it? Did people, was there opposition? Did
Madam
anyone
Chairman,
come?
members of the board, I don't recall opposition.
I have a question.
Yes.
My question is, when you went out to inspect this property and found that it was not up to our current zoning, did you see other violations in the neighborhood at the same time? And if so, do we really not respond to obvious violations unless there is a complaint? Is that what I'm understanding?
Madam Chairman, Supervisor Bishop, to my knowledge, there is currently not a large animal on this particular property. This individual tried to come forward and get the zone that they are required to have large animals. When we do receive a complaint about a large animal or a farm animal in that neighborhood, we do respond. We try and verify that the animal is actually there. We do that through pictorial evidence. And when we're able to verify that the animal is in residence, then we'll contact the property owner or the tenant of basically the owner of the animal might be the tenant of the property. We do respond only on complaints, but we will follow through on the complaints.
Okay, so if I understand this right, if I vote to deny the property owner having her livestock or her horse on the property, then we're still going to ignore everybody else in that same subdivision that's violating the same ordinances? And it just doesn't seem fair to me. I don't understand. How can we say no to this lady and let her next door neighbor have goats or pigs or, yeah, I'm just not sure. I want to deny one person the appreciation of having her horse and the enjoyment, and then let her neighbors have theirs. I'm confused.
See, this wasn't, the petition was made not based on a complaint, correct? It was just wanted to do it the right way.
Supervisor Angus, members of the board, yes, that's correct. She wanted to follow the rules, and we appreciate that. That's very admirable.
Right. And at the time, you encouraged it. You didn't think it was going to be much of a problem.
Based on the owner's testimony, I was not present during those conversations with staff.
And we
Staff did not lead her to believe there would be
And we
an
didn't get
issue.
any letters or big outcry of protests from neighbors?
No.
Okay.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to change the zoning to allow for one horse on parcel number 324-12-038 from a R1 1A single-family residence, 1 acre, to allow one horse, personal livestock in the northern Kingman vicinity.
Second.
Okay, I've got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay. I think that motion carried. Okay, number 48, discussion and possible action. Adoption of the Board of Supervisor Resolution Number 2014-078, zoning use permit on assessor's parcel number 208-04-026 for a secondary residence in a general zone in the Yucca vicinity west of the Yucca frontage road between First Avenue and Gandalf Way, Mohave County, Arizona. This was continued from the June 2nd, 2014 Board of Supervisor meeting, and the commission recommended approval by unanimous vote and added a limitation that after 12 months, it will be reviewed if there is a reason to review it. That being said, if there is full compliance, then there is no reason to review it again.
Madam Chair, was this the item that had to be continued for a period of time?
I believe that there is that,
Yeah. Madam Chairman, members of the board, the department this morning identified a technical issue or a technical error with this particular item, and in order to correct that error, we ask that you continue it for 30 days.
So moved.
First meeting in
okay, wait,
September.
I do have somebody who signed up to speak to it, and he's been waiting all this time.
Okay.
So I would like to give him the opportunity. Jimmy Lee Todd?
Madam Chairman, Mr. Todd is the applicant, and we did speak to him
You did.
before the meeting, and I believe he has gone home.
Okay, very good. Then I'll need a motion.
I move that we continue item 48 for a minimum period of 30 days.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Number 49, approve legislative proposals for Mohave County's 2015 legislative program allowing for additional items to be brought to the board for consideration. Who wants to start?
I'll start. I'm on the right-hand side, so if Madam Chair will indulge me, I'll go through them real quick.
Okay.
The only two proposals that I had any problem with whatsoever was proposals number 1 and 2. One regarding the distracted driving law, and the second regarding the exemption medical certificate requirement. On proposal 2, the medical certificate requirement, I was wondering why we would want our employees and state and federal employees to not have to have that certificate when I assume it's been required for private commercial drivers for health and safety reasons. So I'd have that concern. On number 1, the distracted driving law, I think we're really getting out of hand when it comes to regulating people in cars. And if there's an accident, we should hold them account. But when it comes to short of that, or short of them engaging in reckless driving, I think if they obey the speed limit and they're wearing their seatbelt, that's all we really should try to impose upon them.
Madam Chairman,
Please.
Supervisor Moss, on an annual basis, CSA requests that the county bring any legislative proposals forward to us. So I invite my staff and the elected officials in the Board of Supervisors to provide proposals for the legislature to be voted on by the board and then forwarded to CSA on those that pass. I provide them considerable latitude in doing so. And so if you do have any questions, those two proposals were proposed by Public Works. I'd like to ask if the chairman would allow to have Steve Lutowski come and answer any questions.
Certainly, and thank you, Mr. Hendricks. Like I said, all the others I was in favor of, not a problem whatsoever. These two just stuck with me.
Okay. Steve Lutowski.
Thank you. Madam Chairman, Supervisor Moss, members of the board. With regard to the two proposals for your consideration, first, the distracted driving proposal. I guess the premise of this is more or less driven to human factors that become involved in particular crashes for which there simply are no engineering solutions. And the proposal simply targets the restricting drivers from performing any hands-engaged personal activity not pertaining to motor vehicle control while operating a motor vehicle within the limits of any established and active school zone or work zones. We're only speaking of those two areas which are a very small fraction of any driver's trip.
And I understood that from what it said, but that tells me if I'm in a work zone or a school zone and I pick up a soda pop to take a sip, I change my radio dial, and a police officer sees me, bang, ticket. I mean, we're getting, it's just for the fact that I decided I needed a sip of Coke at that time. I think we're getting a little too extreme on that sort of thing. So I don't want to turn this state into California, is what it comes down to. And that is, I think, a big step of the overregulation that exists in California. So that was my take.
And I agree with you on that one, 100%. And as I understand it, and just so people know, what we're talking about here are, we meet with our CSA, which is basically our lobby group out of Phoenix, and all the supervisors meet as a whole, and they vote on what they want CSA to work on during the next legislative session, and that's what we're talking about that right now. These are the suggestions, the proposals from Mohave County, and that's what we're deciding on right now. Okay. Anything else about the distracted driving law from anybody? Supervisor Johnson?
Not on distracted driving law, but I don't see why we should be pushing it either.
Okay, very good. My two issues are number 5 and 6 from you, Mr. Hendricks. The general excise tax amendment, supermajority. The proposal further defines the votes needed to levy and collect a general excise tax as follows: a 3-member board unanimous and a 5-member board supermajority. What is it now?
Unanimous.
It's unanimous. So you want to put it down to a supermajority, which would be 4. I don't know if I want to support that one, frankly. I think we should be all in, speak in a unanimous voice when we're going to raise money, raise taxes and things like that.
Madam Chair, if I
Yes.
could on that, because I went the other way. My first instinct was exactly what you were thinking, and then I thought about it, and because I did try to weigh pros and cons for each of these in my mind, and I really came up with 3 pros for what County Administrator Hendricks was proposing. The first one is, and this is what I think is a pro-tax reason. The statute says a board may levy with a unanimous vote. It doesn't say you may levy more. It says you may levy with a unanimous vote. So if we wanted to reduce a tax that was imposed, it would take a unanimous vote. Right now, for example, I think our sales tax is 1/4 of 1 penny. If we wanted to, the next meeting, to make it 1/8 of 1 penny, it would take a unanimous vote to do that. And that was segued into my second reason, which I think is it's really against what I would consider a Republican form of government to require unanimity. It's because it's supposed to be a doctrine of majority rules. On the other hand, as conservatives, I'm trying to lay out my pro-con and thinking here. As conservatives, we really want to be able to make it really hard to raise taxes. And I thought the supermajority requirement struck a good balance between the two. And finally, and this is where this does not occur in Mohave County, folks, so what my example is not what's been going on, but Chicago-style politics. Let's say we are all in Chicago and representing ports of Chicago, and Supervisor Watson's district really needed a small temporary tax increase because of some disaster they faced, some really good reason that even good conservatives would support. I, Steve Moss, hard-nosed Chicago John Daly politician, can look at Supervisor Johnson and I could extort him for all the things that I want because I alone, one supervisor, can kill that emergency measure. One. And I really did not think, so when I thought the pros and cons, I really think that this is, I think, in better keepings of good conservative principles of government, which does not result in our throats being cut in bad situations. It's better policy, in my opinion. And it still preserves, because it takes 4 of us to do anything. Now, that's also a con, because it takes 4 of us to bring it down also, but it doesn't require a unanimous vote anymore.
Well, Supervisor Moss, you may have changed my mind.
And I
That may
concur
be the
with
first for calendar year 2014.
I concur with Supervisor Moss, and I'm just hoping that he'll attend the CSA Legislative Conference in Prescott for that same explanation.
I will give them that explanation. I will be there in Prescott.
Very good.
Madam Chair,
Yes, please.
I've fought this battle over the years. I believe it needs unanimous vote. If the board does not come to a unanimous vote, then they can put it to the vote of the people, where they can get the majority of the people to enact this tax if they want to. I believe if the county is going to enact a sales tax, then they stand behind that when it comes time to elect them. So if they're unanimous in that, and the people decide that's a bad tax and throw them out of office, as far as the reducing a tax, I believe, and Mr. Ekstrom might be able to correct me, but like the quarter-cent sales tax that we have put in now, which I voted on, that was set for a time limit to sunset. I believe if we put in, because there was people that wanted us to put in the other quarter-cent for a road, if we had put that in for roads, I believe that we could possibly come back and say we are reducing that tax on roads. I think the quarter-cent we have now was put in for a specific period of time, so that might be the only thing that would have a problem, like Supervisor Moss stated. But I believe it takes a supermajority. I mean, not a supermajority, but unanimous. If not, then the board has the ability to put it to the people for a vote.
If I can
Yes,
respond, Madam
please.
Chair. I understand what Supervisor Johnson says, and and he is correct, there's two methods of getting a tax in place. And when it comes to the vote of the people, we could throw everything on the agenda for a vote of the people and call it unanimous, and we can just go to a pure Greek democracy, which resulted in them in getting conquered by the Spartans and the Romans and everyone else. Or we can provide some leadership and have a Republican form of government, which I think it really does put a big check on tax increases by requiring a supermajority, but does prevent the abuses that I described could occur, which is why I supported this. When it comes to the sunset, there is a current tax that sunsets on December 31st, 2019, I believe. But that's at a quarter cents. I don't think anyone's saying either increase it or decrease it. It's related in that it's just under the same umbrella, but it's not the specific issue we're dealing with.
Okay.
So.
I think we've discussed this. Anything else, Supervisor Johnson?
No. I was just curious why the county administrator would put this on for consideration when it really has nothing to do with his job duties.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Madam Chairman, Supervisor Johnson, if the board so chose to vote where the county administrator can't participate in this legislative process, you can certainly do so.
If I only had the choice.
Actually, in answer to your question,
We're going to stop this now. We're going to move on. Okay, number 6, emergency broadcast systems. Back to our television improvement district. I vehemently oppose this. Again, the TV district is just for the sole purpose of what we were doing. I think it's a bad precedent to open it up for all this other stuff. And I went back and I searched back in the records because it seems I had something in my mind that many times I've heard when I wasn't on the board and since I've been on the board, there have been votes to do things for emergency communication systems, and I found some. You voted on May of 2012 to approve an agreement with Advanced Ministries of a radio for use of Mohave County Division of Emergency Management Emergency Alert System. So, we have things. I think that when the sheriff's stations was hit by lightning, there was some more money that went for some more emergency communication. I think that now correct me if I'm wrong, I think that Mohave County is the only county in Arizona that has a TV district. So why would we even be bringing this to CSA is I don't understand.
Madam Chairman, I know there's been quite a bit of discussion regarding the TV district's rates and what could possibly be done with the TV district in the future. And some of that discussion I felt was to try to do more along the lines of emergency management. And when staff looked at the statute, currently the statute for establishing a television improvement district is for the purpose of acquiring, constructing, improving, extending, maintaining, and operating television transfer and relay facilities. And we believe from a staff perspective that we needed to clarify, if we were going to move in that direction, that it was in the board's best interest to clarify authority to include the emergency services communications capabilities. If we do decide to take emergency services capabilities to the next level, it might be that the county would have its own broadcast station. You asked me one time, what capabilities does the county have? We already do emergency broadcast. When we have an emergency, what we have to do is we have to rely on providing our information to the channels, the Phoenix channels and other things. And if they don't have the capabilities to transmit up to our sites, if we wanted to continue to provide an emergency broadcast service, quite possibly in the future the county would have its own broadcast network and then pull in other, and broadcast from here up to our translator's site. We do have the towers in place, but we don't have that personal in-house capabilities to provide that service.
Why would we bring this to CSA, though?
It's a statutory change, and I'm not sure, Madam Chairman, whether it is totally necessary to make this change. Staff felt it more comfortable if we did include emergency broadcast, if the board chose to move in this direction and change the statute to include it.
I'm not against the emergency broadcast. I just don't know if it should be on the backs of the taxpayers. I mean, we already have it's in different departments who have budget items for this. So I want a lot more information, and if we do need to do it through the state, we can do it through our legislators. I just don't see any need to bring this to CSA, because we're the only ones who have this.
And Madam Chairman, that's the process. If I could make a suggestion, just so staff would have clarification, if we could go through these items one by one and vote on them to whether we're going to be promoting these to CSA. I think I believe my deadline to get the list to Craig Sullivan is the 16th of this month. So these are just suggestions to the board, and if the board chooses not to take number 6 as a suggestion, we'll just not include it.
All right, are we ready to go through? Is there anyone else who wants to say anything about any individual item, proposal?
Madam Chair, the one, if you just describe them as you do them, because it's hard for me to look at numbers with my backup I have here, but on the TV district, I agree with Mr. Hendricks, is something to look at, and while I understand your reluctance for CSA to look at it with all the counties, it might be a good time to at least make these other counties aware of the emergency situation. Once again, last night in the Lake Havasu area, Havasu was without power for, in excess of 6 hours and 8 hours, I'm not sure. And there really is no communication system available for the local people, and I think that's what we're looking at.
Well, if there is no power, how would a TV signal help?
Well, the TV signal or radio signal, I think we would be able to tell the people, hey, if you have your, battery-operated radio or battery-operated television, to get these people the information out. While cell phones were working, people would need a backup to do it, but I think it would really help people in the long run.
Okay, well, again, it's something that we can speak here, but, I just don't see the need to bring it to state. So we'll go through this one by one. Is that okay? So, number 1, the distracted driving law.
Madam Chair, I move that we do not support the distracted driving law.
I second that.
Okay, so all in favor of not supporting item 1?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, nay, that one. Number 2, exemption from medical certificate requirement.
Madam Chair, in fairness of Mr. Latosky, I think we never actually got his explanation why that one was being presented. My inclination is to move to not support the exemption for medical certificate requirement, but maybe we should hear from him for a moment before we...
Okay.
I cut him off after his explanation of the distracted driving law. I apologize, Mr. Latosky.
No worries. Madam Chairman, Supervisor Moss, just a backdrop on Federal Code, Title 49, Subchapter B of Federal Code, setting forth the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Regulations, establishes that those regulations apply to interstate commerce, and it does set forth an exception that the rules in the subchapter on the Federal Motor Carrier Regulations do not apply to transportation performed by the federal government, a state, or any political subdivision of a state, but that's for interstate commerce. With regard to this proposal, it targets a waiver of the annual medical certificate for CDL holders when performing official state and local operations only. State and local government employees operate commercial vehicles for official activities in a manner and function not conducive to the sustained physical rigor and independent duty characteristics of interstate commercial drivers. These employees operate commercial vehicles within local areas, within prescribed work hours and employment rules, within established physical requirements specific to their job description or assignment, and within a supporting chain of command structure. And presently, the state statutes do not provide an intrastate accepted operation category for Arizona CDL holders performing work for local government or government operations only.
Okay. Now, that explanation raises 2 questions in my mind, which means I'm still opposed to the exemption. One, we're saying that if you work for the government, you get a benefit that the private haulers don't, in that we're not going to have to make you do your physical every year, but the people in private business who also keep regular hours have that same, they have that obligation. So we're basically treating the private sector worse than we're treating the public sector because they're imposing an additional rule on them. The other one, the second issue is, I try to make up hypotheticals in my mind as to how this might apply. And I envision some illegal aliens with the biggest problem we have coming now, sneaking across the border somewhere in southern Arizona, being hauled on, put on a federal bus and driven up here and to offload someplace. The government's doing that, not here presently, but all throughout the United States. If Sheriff McCabe, I almost said Sheriff Shahan, but Sheriff McCabe wants to pull them over and check their papers, if we give the federal government this exemption, he will have one less excuse to turn them around and send them back where they came from. So that's...
You had me at, the difference giving the public.
I'm on a roll here.
You are on a roll, man, I'm hearing you, but, yeah, I see that,
And the burden for
I have a question for Steve. Mr. Letowski, is this that portion of which its weight, body mass, is that part of this?
Madam Chair, Supervisor Watson, you bring up an interesting point. The federal government is considering amending the code, and it's an amendment right now, it's not rule, to add a provision requiring that physicians certified to conduct these medical examinations, annual physicals, if you will, actually account for a physical characteristic to impose an additional test on prospective patients for, I believe it's a sleep test, and maybe a considerable expense to the individual CDL holder. But if they meet a certain physical criteria, and I believe one of the criteria is just if you have a neck size of 17.5 or greater, well, gosh, I'm actually approaching that, that you would have to take a sleep test. And it could be in the hundreds of dollars it costs.
That's the one I'm trying to track. Okay, thank you.
But it's not a rule yet, but it could very well be adopted
Could
very
very well
shortly.
be. Okay.
And Madam Chairman,
Then we should fight it for everybody, not just us.
that's, Madam Chairman? That's a very good point. Where Steve was coming in, if I could expand a little bit, where he's coming in at is these recertification medical exams the county picks up on the cost. And if we did, if this did become a rule, it's sleep apnea, and the test is of considerable expense, like $1,000 to thousands of dollars to have. And so there was some discussion on whether, the county was going to pick up that cost or pass that on to our employees. And Steve came up with the innovative idea that's allowed by federal law to just control that internal and require the medicals as we see fit and as we see should be required, and eliminate some of the unnecessary tests that the federal government would be requiring of us.
And if I could, Madam Chair, I think Chairman Angus hit the point on the head. If this is such a burdensome regulation, rather than the government abandoning our residents and saying we'll just exempt ourselves from the rules, we should throw ourselves into the same boat and say we're going to fight with you against this rule. So it's, because I think we have a lot more, I shouldn't say it that way. We are a bit more, have a better ability to get our point across as opposed to some lone self-employed hauler who's just going to be on the short end of this receiving stick because their local elected officials ditched them, essentially.
If I could. I agree certainly to go after it nationally to eradicate it, but in the meantime, we could serve ourselves by adopting essentially our own home rule on the issue by adopting it.
But that means that the federal, the local private business people would not be exempted, only we would be.
That's correct, while we're fighting for their rights.
But if I'm going to be a cynic here, Supervisor Watson, and I apologize, but if I'm a person who I see my neighbor's in trouble, I think I'll try to help him when his house is on fire. I would give it my best. I would do my best there. But I would lack that last desperate edge that my neighbors whose actual house is on fire is enjoying. We'd have a bit less motivation to control that problem than the person who's actually in that mess. And I think we should stay in that mess with our residents so we're 100% motivated to get it done as opposed to only 90% motivated.
Can I just make this something clear? This isn't a law yet, this sleep apnea thing. It might become. We're only talking about what might happen.
Chairman Angus, the rule has not been adopted, but it's under consideration. I believe it's open for comment right now.
It's open, all right, well, let's get on that and get it out there, and I'm sure.
Right, Madam Chair?
Yes.
If I'm correct, Steve, on this, or Mr. Lutowski, this is for commercial licenses.
Madam Chair, Supervisor Johnson, you are correct.
Okay, so I believe what they're trying to do is save the county money because this is going to cost us money, and I'm sure the Teamsters will fight the other issues, especially with commercials.
Okay, but, if it was just this sleep apnea thing, but, when we're controlling it in-house, I mean, we just had an accident with one of our employees, and I don't know, I have just an issue with taking this away and putting it in control of, I think that there could be, and I'm not questioning anyone's integrity or anything, but I think that there can be some issues. Madam Chair? Yeah.
I would like to hear Mr. Ekstrom's interpretation of what our liability might be if we have separate rules from others, and we get into a situation where maybe one of our employees does have sleep apnea, and we don't identify it.
Madam Chairman, Supervisor Bishop, certainly there's liability concerns whenever you modify rules and make them less strict. You can assume, maybe not a rational assumption, but you can assume the federal regulations have some basis in fact and necessity. And if you do that, you end up in court having to argue that they're not unreasonable. So that puts us in an awkward position to say there would automatically be liability. Maybe not. You can always get in litigation over those issues. We want to send the message that we're concerned that our employees meet the highest standards that are appropriate for what they're doing.
Madam Chair, would this be an appropriate time for a motion?
Sure.
I move that we not support the exemption for the medical certificate requirement.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, that's 3-2. You got that, Ginny? Okay, so we're not going to go forward with number 2. Number 3, allocation of funding, juvenile dependencies. The proposal requests the legislature to allocate financial resources to Arizona counties to assist with providing mandated attorney services in juvenile dependency matters, which have increased substantially as a result of the child welfare system being overhauled in Arizona.
Madam Chair, I move that we do support item 3 regarding allocation of funding for juvenile dependencies.
And I second that.
Okay, motion and second. Anyone want to say anything? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So number 3 goes forward. Number 4, flexibility language, county fiscal obligations. The proposal provides for the renewal of the flexibility language, a session law to allow counties to use any source of county revenue to meet a county fiscal obligation for fiscal year 2016. Proposed language would provide for a change in population threshold from 200,000 persons, according to the 2010 United States Census, to 250,000 persons.
Madam Chair, I move that we do support number 4, flexibility language, county fiscal obligations.
Second the motion.
Okay, got a motion and a second for that. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Okay, that one goes forward. 4. Number 5, general excise tax amendment. We talked about this. The proposal further defines the votes needed to levy and collect a general excise tax as follows. A 3-member board would be unanimous, and a 5-member board would be a supermajority.
Madam Chair, I move that we do support item 5, the general excess tax amendment, supermajority.
Second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Number 5 goes through. Number 6, Emergency Broadcast System Television Improvement District. The proposal provides for revised language to allow the purpose of the district to include emergency services communication capabilities under the authority for establishment of a television improvement district. I need a motion.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion that we deny this one.
Okay?
I'll second.
We have a motion and second to deny. Item 6, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
3-2. 6 doesn't go through. However, I just want to make sure I understand there is still a little time. If any of the supervisors or anyone still wants to come forward till the 16th? Is that when it's due?
Madam Chairman, let me check on that. We have time until the 16th, absolutely. I believe there's time until the legislative session to introduce new things, but let me check on that and make sure.
And just because we don't do this through CSA, doesn't mean that we can't do things that we ordinarily do anyway, which we do throughout the year.
Yes, Madam
With
Chair.
our legislative delegation.
And I believe, if I can, for the public's information, Madam Chair, that these are the items which are new. We'll still be pursuing HERF, SLIF, et cetera. This is just the new stuff that we're dealing with.
Right. There's one thing I wanted to bring up. Last legislative session, Supervisor Brotherton had an item about liens, and it did get on, but unfortunately, because there was no one really pushing it and being an advocate for it, is this something that maybe we can bring back sort of to honor her? And because it was a very good proposition about the abatement liens. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I do. I'll have to defer to Bill on how the best way to handle that issue would be.
Madam Chairman, board members, I think last year we had an excellent proposal for that.
Right.
It disappeared somewhere
Yeah.
because it lacks support, but it's very important that we have that authority so that it gives our county liens some substance. Otherwise, we're in the third position. By the time we get a shot at the property, it's all gone.
Can we bring that back, and I will personally bring it forward at the CSA meeting and talk about what probably happened last year? I think it was just, it fell through the cracks because there was no one really advocating for it from Mohave County because we had brought it forward.
I know Lori Milkey did a lot of work on
I
that. She
know
has
she
all
did.
the materials for it.
And if I can, I believe it actually got pretty close to getting out of committee. Senator Ward was a big
Right.
proponent to that and did her best, but it didn't quite get that last inch.
Right. So I would like to see that come back. Okay. Okay. Next up, we're on to 50. Approve not to exceed project budget and expenditure totaling $14,700 inclusive of a Public Works Administration fee, 5% of $700, and direct staff to procure removing the existing 4-foot-high fencing along the approximate 635-foot northern boundary of the Mohave County Fairgrounds property and replacing with a 6-foot-high chain link fencing with 3-strand barbed wire on top to match existing fairground boundary fencing, to be funded from the Park Fund Number 216-8206 FY14 General Fund budgeted allocation of $25,000 to fairgrounds maintenance and improvements.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve item 50.
Second the motion?
We have a motion second. Anyone want to say anything? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Oh, nay from Supervisor Johnson. 51, discussion and possible action, direct staff to identify legal counsel versed in water law to represent and advise Mohave County regarding water issues in the Hualapai Valley and other areas of Mohave County, and bring back a not-to-exceed contract for board consideration. Supervisor Watson.
Thank you, Chairman. I guess I bring you this today in lieu of a number of questions that we have about legal issues concerning water in Mohave County. And what I'd like to do is entertain the services of an expert in water law. So I'd like to make a motion at this time that we direct staff to identify legal counsel versed in water law to represent Mohave County and advise and bring a contract back not to exceed for the board consideration.
Second that motion, and thank you very much, Supervisor Watson. This is a very good idea.
Thank you very much.
Very good.
I have a question, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Supervisor Watson, is that something you want to go out to bid on, or is that something that we can do on a sole source?
We'll ask our county administrator.
Madam Chairman, Supervisor Johnson, I believe we can direct select that professional service.
Direct select, okay.
Thank you.
Okay. We'll need a motion. Did we just do the motion?
It's motion and second
And
already.
second, we have
Motion and
motion
second.
and second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. 52, Approve the Board of Supervisors sending the attached letter to the Bureau of Reclamation, Lower Colorado River Regional Office requesting the reopening of the discussion on the value of Planet Ranch to the Lower Colorado River Multi-Species Conservation Plan in light of the burden a change in land tenure will place on the residents of Mohave County, and revisit the need for Planet Ranch and the transfer of land into state ownership as opposed to lease.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve item 52.
Second the motion.
Okay, Supervisor Johnson, do you want to say anything about this?
Just for discussion and just to kind of add to it, to let the other board members know, going through VOR's money, they're running on underfunded. They're underfunded by $7.6 million. They keep using credits, which I can't figure out where they're getting their credits from, but they're going to be taking on additional things with the Planet Ranch with the underfunding they have now, but I appreciate the support from the members.
Very good. So we have a motion. Did we have a second on that?
We did.
Okay.
Yes, I
All
second.
in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carried. And right now, we're going to go into executive session to go back to item, what is the item number?
32, I think.
32, okay, and then we'll come back for that final vote. Okay, we need Buster back. Okay.
Just taking this opportunity to stand.
Supervisor Johnson?
I'm here.
All righty. Okay, item 32, set the salary rate for Ginny Anderson, clerk of the board, range 20, step 2 at $54,288 annual, effective July 21st, 2014. And I think I should have waited for you, but go on.
Sorry. Madam Chair, I'll make a motion that we approve item 32 of the agenda effective July 21st, 2014.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okey dokey. We're now adjourned.
And we are.